On this week's episode of Ride the Lightning, the Tesla unofficial podcast, Model 3's 2 battery pack sizes are revealed. Signature red may be an option on Model 3 after all. Elon drops a bunch of other new Model 3 info on Twitter, and much more. Happy Memorial Day weekend to my American listener friends. I'm Ryan McCaffrey. This is Ride the Lightning, the Tesla Motors unofficial podcast, episode number 95 for May 28th, 2017. As I said, it is Memorial Day weekend. I hope you are enjoying it, whether you are at home or on the road. Perhaps those of you with Teslas are doing a zero emissions road trip. Maybe you drove somewhere for this fine holiday weekend. As for me, we've got a lot to get to this week. It was a big week, big fun week of Tesla news. I was super excited to record the show today. I am recording on Saturday late afternoon, so apologies to the Patreon backers who like getting the show a little early, because it obviously wasn't that early today, but it kind of worked out because some news broke late Friday night that I would not have gotten to had I recorded the show then. We'll get to that in a minute. But I will say I have to pre-apologize because next week's going to be the same way. I'm going to record Saturday night next week because next Saturday, Michael from Millbrae is taking me along as his guest, thanks to because we got enough referrals because of the referral program. Those of you that were kind enough to use Michael's code, enough of you did, where we are able to go to the VIP factory tour that has the Q&A with Chief Designer Franz von Holzhausen, as well as the private Model 3 viewing. That is happening next Saturday. Now, I do want to warn you, as I almost warned myself, now I might have a lot for you next week if there's no NDA and I happen to get a chance to ask Franz a few questions. I don't know if people in our group will be shy. A lot of times, in things like that, people are shy and they don't want to ask questions, but you never know. You might get a lively group, who knows? So if I get to ask him a lot of stuff and there's no NDA, I could have a lot for you, or it could be the opposite. I might have almost nothing to report if it's all under NDA and I don't get to ask Franz anything anyway for whatever reason or another. So I'm as curious to find out how it's going to go as you are. So stay tuned for next week's show. I will tell you whatever I can from there. And in fact, on that note, on the topic of the Franz von Holzhausen Q&A, let's go to Bobby in Salt Lake City on that very topic. Bobby, go ahead.
Hey Ryan, it's Bobby calling in from Salt Lake City. If you're looking for questions to ask Franz during the Q&A at your Model 3 visit, I've got one for you, and that is, why did they change the way the brake lights work on the Model 3? The lights on the prototypes they revealed last year lit up like the Model S and X do, but in all the release candidates that we've seen, we see just the one small square in the middle lighting up in all the videos that fans have taken. And to me, this really cheapens the look of the car. I've been fine with all the design decisions they've made up to this point, with the minimal interior, the nose of the car, and everything else, but these brake lights are just really disappointing to me, and I'm hoping we can get some clarity on why they changed it, or if the actual production vehicles are going to be different. Thanks as always for the show, Ryan, and good luck.
Bobby, thanks for the call. That would indeed be something interesting to ask him, so I'm going to add that to my list. And if you have a question that you would like me to try and be your vessel for, should I get the opportunity to throw a few questions Franz's way, go ahead and just email me, because there's no need to call in with those. I'm not going to play them on the show. So just email me, teslapodcast@gmail.com. I'll be writing my own questions, and I'll compile the best of yours. And like I said, I might get a chance to ask 0 questions, 1 question, or maybe I'll get to pepper him with a handful. So we shall see. On with the week's Tesla news. As I said, it was a busy, fun, exciting Tesla week, particularly on the Model 3 front, which is, of course, where the bulk of the Tesla news is coming these days. Teslarati gets a tip of the hat because they had themselves a very nice scoop as part of a larger sort of fiscally oriented scoop, as it were. They have learned through trusted sources that the base Model 3 is going to feature a 60 kilowatt hour pack, which of course is was the base Model S battery up until fairly recently. And in fact, that's what a few Model X's had, a 60 kilowatt hour. Remember that did not last. That literally lasted a month or two before they discontinued the 60 kilowatt Model X. But anyway, it's going to be a 60 on the bottom end and a 75 on the top end. Although that one Elon had more or less already revealed through comments on Twitter. But test packs, Teslarati has learned, test packs, battery module packs using the new 2170 cells that are going to go in all the Model 3s. They are currently being assembled by hand at the Gigafactory at a rate of about 20 per day. Now they note that robots are going to be able to do a pack in about 10 seconds once the robots come online for this, so that's just a wee bit more efficient. Now, what does this mean for range? Because I've seen comments about this, I've seen speculation, and that is all we have for now. Now, the Bolt, the Chevy Bolt, to which the Model 3 is, I think, pretty fairly compared to. They're the same MSRP. They have, they're really the only cars in their class, although the 3 is much larger. So the Bolt has a 60 kilowatt hour pack as well, and it gets 238 miles of range. On the one hand, Model 3 is much more aerodynamic than the Bolt. However, the Bolt is also a much smaller car and a lighter car. The Bolt is rated at 3,580 pounds versus what I would estimate to be at least 4,000 pounds for the Model 3, probably at least a 500-pound difference. I actually think it's probably easier for this exercise in trying to determine what the range is going to be on the Model 3 packs. I think the smarter exercise is to compare the Model 3 to the Model S. Because remember, the 3 is overall much closer in size to the Model S. So the S 60 kilowatt hour pack is rated at 210 miles, and the 75 kilowatt hour pack is rated at 249 miles. The 3 is, just like the 3 is bigger and heavier than the Bolt, the S is bigger and heavier than the 3. Or to phrase it the other way, Model 3 is lighter and more aerodynamic than the Model S. Therefore, my guess, and this is my own speculation, I'm not quite as bullish on this as some other people. I would love to be wrong, but I think, the 2170 packs might make a difference. They might not. I mean, they're denser, but you're still getting a 60 or 75 kilowatt hour pack. So, I know the 20 to 30% higher energy density has been mentioned, but you still are dealing with a big car. Here's where I'm going to plant my flag in the ground. Pardon me. I think we're looking at 225 to 230 on the base Model 3 and 270 to 275 on the big battery. Again, I'd love to be wrong, but I'm trying to be realistic. Maybe I'm being a tad conservative, but I would rather be pleasantly surprised than be disappointed. Because I've seen people throwing out, it's definitely going to be 300 because the car is smaller and more aerodynamic and the battery, the 2170 cells. Maybe it will be. But with the S, again, the Model S 75 kilowatt hour car is 249 miles. For the Model 3 using the same size kilowatt hour pack to top 300 miles, you are talking about 20% better range. 20%. That's a lot. I mean, I think in the real world, that's a lot. Again, yes, the car is lighter. Yes, the car is more aerodynamic, so that's going to be better highway range. Not going to make a difference in the city. But, and yes, the 2170 cells have higher energy density, but I just think 20% more would be a lot. So I'm thinking more like 10%. That's what I based my estimate off of. So we'll see how right or wrong I am, but if that ends up being what it is, 275 for the big battery, 225, 230 for the base. I mean, that's not bad. And you throw a dual motor on there, and you're gonna punch that up 5 or 10 miles as well. So that's gonna help tick it up. We'll see. We should find out in July, hopefully. They also mentioned, by the way, it's part of Teslarati's scoop, they have learned that the big batteries are likely to be made first. So to me, that says Tesla wants a decent margin on those very first cars, even though they're the quote-unquote simple rear-wheel drive motor builds. And remember, Elon has kind of hinted at this before. He had, on a quarterly conference call, I believe it was, a couple of quarters ago, he talked about how the first cars are the most expensive to build because they take so long, relatively speaking. The manufacturing is not efficient yet, the line isn't up to speed, and therefore those cars are the most expensive to build. So, with the S and the X, in that same scenario, they built the highest spec cars first to try and help offset that. They are not doing that with the 3 because, of course, as we know, the performance model has been pushed out to spring 2018. But it looks like they are at least hedging their bet in a sense, and they're gonna crank out the 75 kilowatt hour cars first. That means that if you camped out and reserved at a store on the morning of March 31st last year, and you want the base model, you want the base pack, I'm not sure how long you're going to have to wait, but it looks like you will not be getting your car right away. So we'll see how that plays out. And that also means that the first cars off the line, while they won't be fully equipped, ludicrous performance, maxed out $80,000 cars, they're also not going to be base model $35,000 cars either. They're probably, that means, if they're going to be requiring the bigger battery on the first cars off of the line, you got to figure that's going to be a $7,500 to $10,000 upgrade, most likely somewhere in between. My best guess is, it's a $10,000 difference on Model S to step up in battery. So I think we're probably looking at, call it 8. That's, again, just trying to stay conservative with it, so that if it's a smaller price difference, then I'm pleasantly surprised instead of disappointed. So if it's an 8, you're looking at $43,000 cars out of the gate rather than $35,000 cars. This is the part of the show where I am really excited. This completely, I woke up to this. This all went down. This was all posted on Friday night, and I had went to bed early. And I woke up Saturday to this, to a bunch of tweets of people really excited for me. I'm like, what is this? And sure enough, it was my dream come true. A release candidate Model 3 was spotted in Palo Alto. There is even video of it online, of the car behind it, following it for a little while, getting a good, clear view of the car. Sadly, not the front, just the back. But the car is wearing signature red paint. Yes! Yes! I am so thrilled that is real. I am so thrilled. Give it to me. I need it. Signature red on my Model 3. It is my dream come true. I have been trying to plant that seed in Elon Musk's head. At one point, I know at least he heard me because, as you'll recall, he replied to me some months ago when he replied to my tweet about that very topic, saying there will be something special for for March 31st reservation holders. So I am 100% taking credit for this. I want everybody to know I am taking credit for this. I willed this into existence. I probably not. I probably had nothing to do with it, but it's a fun thought. I'm just happy that it's real. Although, I have to say, I can't count that chicken before it hatches. I am not quite ready to say that the Model 3 going into my garage is going to be signature red. And that's because, for all I know, this could be a thing that's reserved exclusively for Tesla employees as a sort of special commemoration for them, and or it could be for Tesla employees and existing Tesla owners. Because we know that those two groups of people already have priority in the delivery queue. So for all I know, this could be a thing for them as well. Whether or not it extends out all the way out to anybody who has a reservation timestamp of March 31st remains to be seen. But when you correlate that with Elon's response to me on Twitter saying that there would be something special, something cool for, as he told Alexi Heft this week, which we'll get to in a minute here, it does correlate nicely with that, where he said there'd be something cool, there'd be something special for people that have March 31st reservations. So hopefully this is going to be it. I know I was looking at some of the Electrek comment chatter and some of the other chatter, and a lot of people were poo-pooing it, saying, I don't like that color, that's a dumb thing. I was like, well, you know what? It's a paint color, it's highly subjective. Of course, if it was signature white, then I would be like, nah, no thanks, I don't care about that. It happens to be a color that I love. In fact, serendipitously, I actually came across a signature red Model S today on my errands, my morning errands. In fact, I got out and took a picture of it and had to tweet it out because it just, I thought it was like, the Tesla gods were speaking to me, as if it's like, oh, it's signature red day today. Because even though I am lucky here in the San Francisco area, I mean, I literally see Model S's every day. On many days, it's many of them. I might see 10, 12 or more of them in a day here. That's how prevalent they are. But seeing a signature red S is very, very rare. It's actually gotten, in a sense, more rare because even, there were only 1,000 of them, or was it 12? They might have ended up doing 1,250. I can't quite remember, but in it, there are many S's around, but very few of them that are signature red. And each day there are more and more S's in the Bay Area, and each day the percentage of those that are signature red goes down. So they are pretty rare to see. I love the color. It's a multi-coat. It has a metallic fleck in it, a sparkle in it. I find it to be a very classy. I mean, you got to see it in person, which I think is true of any paint color. I mean, yeah, you can get a decent idea of what signature red looks like from photos online, but you really do, like any other paint color, you got to see it in person to really appreciate it. And again, if you don't, that's fine. It's a paint color. It's super subjective. But in any case, there is no doubt that this Model 3 was wearing signature red paint because it definitely wasn't multi-coat red. And so I am optimistic that I might have a reasonable chance to get signature red, and so might all of you who waited in line and got a March 31st reservation. If it does end up being a thing that's for employees or employees and existing owners, I can live with that because I'm fine with those people being rewarded for their loyalty either as an employee or as a supporter of the company. Because if I can't get signature red, I'm going to be very, very happy to fall back on multi-coat red. But I am hoping that I am able to get sig red because I think it's a beautiful color, and it was thrilling. I was not expecting this to happen. I mean, even when Elon replied to me, I thought, well, he might have just said yes if it was real. So, and I was trying to keep my expectations in check when he said, oh, well, there'll be something special. And I thought, well, okay, maybe that's going to be a T-shirt or a hat or a poster, something very, you try to manage your expectations with these things. So we'll see who is going to get signature red, but it looks like somebody is going to have access to it. And for those of you who might think, well, that seems like an awfully small number of cars that signature red could even be applicable to in a time when Tesla is so obsessed and so focused on manufacturing efficiency. And to that I would actually counter, there were over 125,000 reservations placed on March 31st. And the reason I know that is because I was, as you know, fortunate enough to be at the Model 3 reveal event on March 31st. And after the event ended, they put a live counter up on the video wall of the reservations, and it just kept going up and up and up. And it cleared. I have a picture that I took where it's sitting at 125,000. So I don't know what it actually got up to, but it's at least 125,000 reservation holders. So even if only 10% of those 125K, and like I said, it's probably more than that, but if 10% of those people opt for it, that's 12,000 plus cars, 12.5. You could, some of those people might be employees, some of those people might be owners, some of those people might be, and then West Coast, and then, Mountain, and then Midwest, and then East as they move through, and then Europe and other territories. My point being, they could absolutely batch those such that, they're done enough of them are done in an efficient manner where maybe, it's, this day of the month, so we're going to do all the Sig Reds in the paint shop on this day. And that's what, or maybe this week is dedicated to, or the next 2 weeks, whatever it is, are dedicated to the Sig Reds. And they'll just batch them because they already do that now with S's and X's, and I'm sure they'll be doing it with 3s. So it is a very, very real possibility now. It just got a lot more real than what it was, which it had been a pipe dream in my own mind up until today. So very excited about that. Okay, let's move on to Elon Musk's series of tweets from this past week. There were a lot of them, so I want to go through and review what we learned this week. It's mostly Model 3 related. Elon was asked any idea of when we will start seeing the rollout of all-wheel drive Model 3s. Now, he has addressed this before, but to hear him do so again in an updated way matters. And Elon did reply, and he said early next year. To start with, we're making the simplest Model 3 first, like we did with S. Didn't do it with X because I was an idiot. So you'll recall that the last time Elon talked about the all-wheel drives was when he revealed to us all that they would not be available at launch. And at the time, which was March, he said it would be 6 to 9 months from now, which meant, okay, fall to end of year. So now we're looking like, now he's saying early next year, whether that's January, early next year would, I think, generally translate to January or February. But it does appear certain that no all-wheel drive Model 3s will ship this year. So even if you are a West Coast employee who owns a Model S already, you will not be getting an all-wheel drive Model 3 this year. And I'll tell you, all along, I've been pegging my expectation for my car as a day one reservation holder who camped out, got right at 10 a.m. when the store opened. I was 14th in line or whatever I was, who lives right near the factory. I'd kind of figured at the time 2 years, which, March, April of 2018. That's looking pretty accurate right now. That seems to be about where I'm tracking, depending on, since I am definitely holding out for all-wheel drive, and then, again, performance is going to depend on finances. We'll see about that. But, yeah, looking like spring, most likely, for most of the all-wheel drive cars. Next up, this one is, I alluded to this a few minutes ago, this was asked by one of our regular listeners, in fact, one of our Patreon producers, Alexi Heft. She wrote to Elon and said, Sig Red or free supercharging for March 31st reservation holders? And Elon replied, something cool for sure. So, it could be either one. Again, it's possible that the March 31st reservation holders will get signature red, and that they could still also do something special for the employees and existing Tesla owners and give them free unlimited lifetime supercharging. Or it could end up being the reverse, where maybe they'll give the free unlimited lifetime supercharging to all of us March 31st reservation holders, and they'll offer signature red paint as an option to the employees and the existing owners. It could absolutely go either way. So we shall see. Or again, it could easily be something much, much, much simpler for March 31st folks, like a poster or a little Model 3 toy car. So I want to be careful not to set my expectations too high on this. Another person tweeted Elon saying simply, Tesla Model 3 update, please. And Elon replied saying, that will be tied to deliveries of the first production cars in July. So this is simply him reiterating that the next event for Model 3 will occur in July as the delivery event, which is still according to schedule there. Elon also tweeting, sort of apropos of nothing, all Model S and X cars will have an auto raise and lower function for the steering wheel in a few months. Now that's something that I know for you tall folks, of which I am not one, tall folks in particular, I know really benefit from that, where the steering wheel will tilt up and out of the way to make it easier to get in and out of the car. So it appears that is going to be a software update for all Teslas in the fleet. And that will be coming apparently in a few months. Another question to Elon. Elon, a request from my young kids. Daddy, please, can your cool Tesla be a Wi-Fi hotspot too? What do I tell them? You kids today and your Wi-Fi hotspots. Got to be on the internet all the time. Elon replied saying, we could add that function pretty easily from a technical standpoint, just need to add in the billing software. And the thread continued, someone saying, Tesla hotspot would eliminate one extra device, smiley face. Best if you add cams recording in a loop to the external drive too. And Elon saying, quote, interesting idea, would give a dynamic 360-degree surround view as you're driving. Have this in dev mode can be a bit distracting though. I think Elon actually misinterpreted this slightly. I believe the person asking him was referring to basically an accident situation where if someone hits you, you've got that recording of all the cameras around the car and can use that as evidence to prove to the police that the accident was not your fault. But even Elon thinking of it as a 360-degree view on the touchscreen could still be a fun way to go as well. Next, someone requesting of Elon, please add HomeLink controls to the mobile app. Also, allow for temperature customization in cabin overheat protection. Elon replying simply, will do. So add that to the feature list for a future version of the Tesla app. Next up, can you add a Solar City and Powerwall app to the Model S and X list of apps so I can check them while sitting in traffic? Elon saying, yes. Next, update on the coast-to-coast autopilot demo? Elon replying, still on for the end of the year, just software limited. Any Tesla car with hardware too, all cars built since October last year, will be able to do this. So simply reiterating what he'd already said there. He added, sort of again independently, just noting, excited about the Tesla Autopilot software release rolling out next month, meaning June. New control algorithm feels as smooth as silk. And he clarified that he's referring to the lane holding, because I've heard from some of you that the lane holding isn't super smooth, like the car kind of ping-pongs a little bit and and isn't as smooth as it was in hardware 1. So it sounds like this next software update, they've made some improvements there, which is nice to hear. Because remember, folks, the thing to remember, because it's easy, I know it's easy for me to forget this. Maybe it's just me, but every update that rolls out now it will be on your Model 3. So all of these improvements to autopilot, and as hardware 2 gets closer and closer to parity with hardware 1 and then starts to surpass it, that's all going to be there for us when we take delivery of our Model 3. So that is exciting stuff. Perpendicular parking and rain sensors for hardware 2, please. And Elon says, hopefully June for those too. So those are a couple of features that hardware 1 has that hardware 2 is still lacking. And finally, out of left field, out of nowhere, what's up with your plans to rebuild your Lotus Bond sub into a working model? And Elon actually replied to this saying, we'll keep the original Bond Lotus sub as is. That design can't actually convert from car to sub. Have a new design in mind that does. Normally you would laugh this off with almost any other human being on the planet. But as I've said many a time before, not with Elon Musk. He will probably find a way to do this when he has 5 minutes that he can't sleep at night. He'll probably sketch this out in a totally workable way, and it'll somehow get made, and it'll be amazing. You never know. Okay, let's move on to the next round of Model 3 news for the week. We learned this week via a spy shot of a Model 3 parked at a supercharger plugged in. We finally got a look at what the Model 3's supercharger plug looks like, or I should just say the charging plug. It flips up. So it's the entire, on the S and the X, it's just that little end piece of the taillight that wraps around on the driver's side. It's basically just the size of the plug itself. It's very small. But on the Model 3, the piece that flips open is much, much larger, which I presume this to be because they're going to need that space for other territories where they might need to put different formats of plug on that are larger than Tesla's plug. So it's basically the entire triangular piece that wraps around on the driver's side body of the car, the actual, as opposed to the rear of the car, the actual driver's side. So that entire triangular piece flips up. Now, from the picture, it kind of looks manual rather than automatic, but I think it basically has to be automatic in order for automatic supercharging to work when level 4, level 5 self-driving capability rolls around and the car can drive itself across the country. I mean, because it can't do that if you need a human being to flip open the charging port. So even though, like I said, it looks manual from the picture, to me anyway, I don't think it can be. It's got to be automatic. A hat tip here, just as earlier we had a hat tip for Tesla Roddy. This one goes to Trevor Page of the Model 3 Owners Club forum. He managed to leak got his hands on and posted Tesla's internal, well, this is my phrasing, not theirs, an anti-selling sheet for the Model 3. It's a Model S versus Model 3 comparison sheet, which Tesla themselves posted at the end of the week on Tesla.com. And it's 2 columns. It's a side-by-side with a bunch of different categories of Model S versus Model 3. So the first category is performance, and it notes 0 to 60 in 5.6 seconds for the Model 3, and that's slightly new information because you'll recall that at the Model 3 unveil event, we were simply told it would be less than 6 seconds. So of course you automatically assume 5.9 for the base model. So 5.6 is not too shabby at all for the base model. The bigger battery and the dual motors and the performance will be faster than that. but 5.6. And they put that side by side next to 2.3 seconds for a P100D. So I find that a little odd that they're comparing a $130,000 Model S to a $35,000 Model 3, but there you go. Pay-per-use supercharging, which was expected. We saw the policy change earlier this year versus they note free unlimited lifetime supercharging for some Model S's. Range 215 plus, so still not showing their hand there. We don't know exactly how many miles the base battery range is going to be. Seating for 5 adults, that was obvious. There are no rear-facing child seats here. Here's a big one now. 14 cubic feet of combined frunk and trunk storage space versus 30 for the Model S. And they note that it is a manual trunk with no power liftgate, the way the Model S has. So I gotta say, that's a bit surprising that the discrepancy is that much between the S and the 3. Now, yes, the S being a hatchback versus a manual trunk in the 3 does make a difference there. A hatchback's definitely going to have more storage capacity, but yeah, that's twice as much is quite a lot. Although I should note that does not include folded down rear seats in either car. So at least for you Model 3 folks, that should take the storage space up to around 30 cubic feet if you fold the rear seats down. So you still have a pretty decent amount of space. One digital display with a 15-inch center touchscreen on Model 3, no surprise there. Now, they also had a category for premium features, and they list a bunch for Model S, but they don't list any for the 3. They list the HEPA filter, aluminum body, smart air suspension, glass roof, panoramic sunroof, auto-presenting door handles, and 21-inch wheels. And the column is simply blank for Model 3. So this is simply, they just haven't announced Model 3's premium features yet. Of course it's going to have the glass roof, because every single release candidate has had a glass roof on it. There's no way that the Model 3 isn't going to have a glass roof, either standard or at least as an option. So I'd kind of throw this. I would not panic about this category and all these features being listed where there are none for the Model 3. Do not panic on that one. This one, though, this is the one that's been causing a lot of agita for Model 3 reservation holders online. Less than 100 possible configurations of Model 3 versus 1,500 plus for Model S. Now, people that are better at math than me started digging into this, and they found that it's not as bad as it seems, because the packages aren't featured in this, the premium package, or like what the tech package used to be. So don't worry too much here, but also this doesn't include, there's no way this includes smart air suspension, all-wheel drive, performance. Those aren't factored into this because those aren't in the launch version of the car. Those are going to be coming later. All in all, this sales sheet, to me, just reinforces what I've previously said on the show, which is that I don't think we're going to get any premium interior options on the Model 3, be they an upgraded sound system or a premium package like bioweapon defense mode. I don't think we're going to get any interior accent lighting the way the S has, etc. Now, smart air suspension was confirmed by Elon on Twitter after the reveal last year. I mean, it's possible that's changed, but more likely it just won't be offered right at launch when they're building those simplest rear-wheel drive cars. I would expect smart air suspension to become available when either all-wheel drive and or performance come online in 2018. On this topic, Robert from Chicago calls in with his reaction to this document from Tesla. So Robert, go ahead.
Hi Ryan, it's Robert from Chicago. Just wanted to call in with a reaction and my response to the comparison chart posted on the Tesla website. And I gotta say, I'm feeling a lot like the caller a couple of weeks ago who said he was just feeling really underwhelmed and disappointed by the Model 3. And looking at that chart, it's mainly just the number of possible configuration options and lack of a lot of the premium features that really has me disappointed in the Model 3. And I know Elon's been talking about anti-selling and how not to get confused between thinking the Model 3 is the next better version of the Tesla. And, I'm not somebody who is in that category, but I am someone who is thinking the Model 3 was going to be a smaller, more affordable Model S, and that part of the Model S's expenses was because it was a new technology. And so as they got more efficient, that the cost itself would just come down even with a product of nearly the same quality. And so just feeling real disappointed when you would look at a comparable $35,000 ICE car to have so few options available. I mean, we don't know what they are yet, but less than 100 different permutations is a very small number when you start pairing this color with every possible interior, with every possible battery, with every possible software option. That's such a small number of possible options. And I could probably make a Model S work. It would be tight, and it would, it's probably not the wisest thing for me to do, to spend that much money on a car. I'm not a car guy to start with, but gotten more and more excited about Tesla and the Model 3, and so I'm hoping you or some other callers have some kind of uplifting or optimistic thoughts, and maybe they're sort of bluffing, and this is, at very first launch, there's only this many options and features available, but things will be added. But then again, people like me and you who are day one reservation holders before even the reveal, waiting in line, now we're getting the short end of the stick by not having as many options available. So they're, kind of sticking it to the people who are believing them and wanting to support them the most. So anyways, just looking forward to your thoughts. Thanks. Bye.
Robert, thank you for the call. Elon has a very fine line to walk here, which you alluded to, because he has to avoid killing the demand for the Model S, but at the same time, he has to make sure that the Model 3 is good enough and appealing enough where it's an obvious choice for someone shopping for a car in the $35,000 range, right? I mean, he's always said that it's got to be the best car in its class, and that just happens to be electric. So here's my take on this that I hope makes you feel better, Robert, or at least this is what I've been telling myself. This sheet was intentionally constructed in order to make the S look as desirable as possible and downplay the 3, aka the S meaning the car they need to sell right now versus the 3, the car that they literally can't sell yet. I mean, again, I mentioned this a minute ago, but look at the performance comparison alone. They compare the $130,000 performance of a P100D to the performance of a $35,000 base Model 3. That's unfair, and that's almost misleading. So I suspect that the Model 3 isn't quite as hamstrung compared to the Model S as that sheet makes it appear to be. But at the same time, I hope that Elon hasn't become so obsessed with manufacturing efficiency that he reduces the appeal of the Model 3 by severely limiting its options. So I hope Elon doesn't lean too far in that direction. I mean, I get the need and the desire to go in that direction because it's the smart thing to do, it's the practical thing to do, it's the fiscally sensible thing to do, but he's still got to build a great car here, and not just a car that can be made cheaply. So, Elon, if you're out there, if you're listening to this, please just think about that for a second and make sure that you're not taking it too far in the wrong direction. Finally this week, just a quick note, if you're interested in getting Tesla's solar roof anytime soon, you're going to need to be patient. This is a hat tip now to Electrek. They have learned that demand has exceeded expectations internally at Tesla, and that the solar roof tiles are now sold out well into 2018. Which, by the way, is great. That is great to see. And as I've said before, I will definitely do this when the time comes, which for us shouldn't be for a while, but that's okay. I'll be able to plan for it, because a roof is not a cheap thing. But that'll be a cool thing to look forward to. Home improvement things tend not to be very sexy or exciting, but a solar roof is, because it looks cool, it looks very nice, and it's completely changing your energy footprint. It's taking you effectively off the grid when you pair it with a Powerwall. I mean, it's a big change, and it's that'll be something really neat to look forward to for me when the time comes, and hopefully, I'm sure some of you out there will be looking to do it sooner. But if you are, might want to get on that waiting list in the near future. All right, I'm going to come right back. We've got a whole bunch of really great phone calls in the Ride the Lightning hotline. You guys called in masse this week, which I greatly appreciate. We've got Carl from Pennsylvania, Ken in Denver, Tom in Raleigh, Tim in Indiana, Justin in Berkeley, Kyle from New Jersey, Mike from LaGrange, and Michael from Millbrae, all coming up with their great questions and discussion topics right after this. If you're like me and have a Tesla reservation, you'd probably love the chance to drive one around for more than just the short test drive that you can get from Tesla. Well, I've got a solution for you. Friend of the show, Joe Edgel, actually rents out Model S and Model X Teslas for as long as you'd like. If you happen to be taking a trip to Washington, D.C. or the Baltimore area, or if you want to drive one so badly you're willing to make a special trip, check out Joe's website, emotion.rentals. If you want, Joe will even deliver the car to you at the airport or your hotel. That's emotion.rentals. Now back to the show. Welcome to the Ride the Lightning hotline. It is the section of the show where, of course, it stars you. You get to call in with your questions, comments, discussion topics. You can record those very easily on your smartphone using whatever the built-in voice memo program is, and then email me that file. The email address is teslapodcast@gmail.com. Alternatively, you can use the Ride the Lightning hotline, the very simple, easy-to-use, toll-free number provided by lifeonrecord.com. So that toll-free number is 1-888-989-8752. That's 1-888-989-TSLA. And if you know someone special with an upcoming birthday, anniversary, graduation, or some other special occasion, you can give them a unique gift of recorded voices from friends and family telling them why they're special. The recordings can be podcasted or put onto a keepsake. Visit lifeonrecord.com to learn more. And by the way, if any background noise came in towards the end of that last segment, I apologize. A family friend came over and there was a bunch of commotion at the front door. So anyway, let's start with Carl from Pennsylvania, who has at least a local update on what's going on with Solar City and solar panels as the solar roof tiles start to come into play. Carl, what have you got?
Hi, Ryan. This is Carl from PA. I was just talking to my local Tesla rep, and she told me something interesting that I hadn't really heard before. She said that the Tesla solar roof is replacing the panels entirely, and they're phasing them out. So I hadn't heard that before. So if you wanted to get a solar panel from Solar City, you have to act now before they're all gone. All right. Thought that would be interesting for you guys to hear. Bye.
Well, we can't quite take that as gospel, no offense, Carl, but assuming that this does prove to be universally true, then anyone who hears this that's interested in solar panels from Solar City as opposed to waiting for the solar roof, you should check with your local Tesla store very, very soon. So thank you, Carl, for that heads up. Next up is Ken in Denver, who wonders where the heck the official Model X crash test data is. So Ken, take it away.
Hi, Ryan. This is Ken from Denver. I wanted to bring up the topic of the Model X NHTSA crash test data. I thought we would have seen that by now. I don't know how overdue it is. So I was curious. I thought that was a good selling point for the S and was hoping it would be exciting good news for the X. Let me know if you know anything about the crash test data. Thanks, Ryan. Bye.
Thank you, Ken. This has been brought up before, maybe even by you. And I recall predicting that it wouldn't be much longer at that time based on how things went for Model S. But that was a while ago now, and searching in the present day, I couldn't find anything, including, most notably, on the official NHTSA website, which does pull up the X when you search for it, but it has no crash test data. So I have no idea when we're going to get it at this point. I mean, the car's been in full production for about a year and a half now. I did email a Tesla PR representative about this, hoping to get a comment or update of some kind. Unfortunately, I didn't hear anything back this time. They've been kind enough to reply to me in the past, but maybe they just didn't have anything to say, and so didn't get an update here. But we tried. We tried. Ken, thank you for that. It is definitely something to keep an eye on, because if the crash test data comes in as well as Tesla expects it will, that should make analysts happy. It'll just be another selling point for Tesla with the X for families. So it'll be a good thing if in fact the X nets out as well as the company expects it to with regard to crash test rating. Tom in Raleigh now wonders why Teslas can't rate the roads themselves as part of autopilot. Tom, flesh that out for me.
Hey, this is Tom in Raleigh. I had a few ideas on the autonomous driving mode with Tesla. I wonder why they couldn't rate the roads, with their ability for the autonomous driving to work. Maybe had great lane markings or road signs were up to date, and they maybe could have the autonomous driving know which roads it would work better on and which roads it didn't work too well on, and warn the driver to take back control, or maybe not even allow driving on some roads until the software, was better off dealing with it. But I was wondering if they were working on anything like that. But thanks. I love the show. Bye.
Well, Tom, I wonder if it's possible that they already do this in some behind-the-scenes kind of way. We heard earlier from that Elon Musk tweet that they do have 360-degree camera view in a dev mode. So I wonder what other tricks they might have in a dev mode. Maybe they are collecting this kind of data about rating the quality of the roads using fleet learning. Who knows? But regardless, I love your idea, whether or not it's actually happening or not, because, of course, all roads are definitely not created equal. I can tell you many San Francisco roads are awful. I think pretty much almost anybody will say that the worst roads in the world are the town they live in, except Arizona. Gosh, nobody in Arizona should complain. The roads there are like, it's like driving on just whatever the perfect road surface to drive on would be. The roads are so smooth, particularly the freeways in Arizona. But in any case, there are some San Francisco roads that are pretty darn bad. And in fact, on a certain section of the 101 freeway that I drive on frequently, I know where all the rough spots are, so I know which lane to be in order to avoid them. But it would be great if the car knew that too, so that when when level 4, level 5 autopilot rolls around, that I don't even have to worry about it. The car just knows. So I hope Tesla does something like this someday, if they're not already gathering data on this in the back end. Next up is Tim from Indiana, who calls in about the upcoming factory tour and Model 3 viewing event next week. Tim, you're on the air.
Hey, Ryan, it's Tim from Indiana again, calling from my car. Not a Tesla, unfortunately. I just had a quick comment about the referral program event that you'll be tagging along to, and the alpha prototype you mentioned on this week's show. I think the reason they're using the alpha prototype there is they wouldn't want to spoil the big good surprise, so to speak, at the reveal event. That's likely to be a big party. We know how Tesla loves their big parties. And the official availing, and to show a near final or final version of the car to a smaller audience, especially, even though it would be an audience of fans and people that had earned it, information would get out, pictures would get out, and it would take away from, kind of a big event that they're probably building to for July. So it just makes sense for them to show a car that's already been out there and has already been kind of scrutinized and looked over in the Motor Trend piece. Yep, that's all I had. Thanks. Bye.
Yes, Tim, I heard about this too. You're totally right. As I said last week, though, I'm still very excited to see it. I mean, I wonder if it's going to be velvet roped off or if we might actually get to sit in the Alpha. I mean, at the very least, I hope I can take some decent pictures. Although, again, like I mentioned at the top of the show, who knows if an NDA is going to prevent me from sharing those pictures. I can't wait regardless. 1 week to go. I will say if I am able to take pictures, they'll be on my Twitter, which is @DMC_Ryan, if you're not already following me. 1 week to go. 1 week to go until the event. I'm very excited for that. Next is Justin from Berkeley, not too far here, just a stone's throw over the Bay Bridge. He calls in regarding energy density and long-range travel for the Semi, as well as if you happen to be towing something with one of the Tesla cars. Justin, you're on the air.
Hey Ryan, Justin from Berkeley here again, called in a few times. Hey, just was thinking as I was driving and listening to your podcast, I'm sure Tesla has thought of this probably more than I have, but on the topic of just energy density and, kind of what that means for extended travel range, and hope you can follow me here, but the semi-truck and even thinking a little bit about things like trailer attachments for Model S, Model X, and other cars to have storage and increased energy density. If you look at the base of most trailers, they have sort of a 5-inch, maybe a 6-inch, maybe a little shorter, but a base to them that you can imagine, or at least I was thinking about, what if Tesla had that base where they could essentially, if it's a tractor trailer, have that stored with batteries as a flat base, and then have that base be able to accept the containers, if you will, for the transportation of heavy loads. So essentially a range extender built into the base that could boost the range for the Semi. And you can imagine the same thing as if you wanted to take cross-country trip or storage. You have some sort of umbilical that goes to the Model S or Model X. That the base of that storage trailer, enabled you to extend the range. Now, I don't know what the weight to energy density ratio is of where you kind of have diminishing returns, but just a thought that popped in my head. Anyway, hope you're doing okay after Maggie. Sorry to hear about that. I'm sure you'll do well. And thanks for the great podcast. Thanks, Ryan. Yeah.
Justin, I could totally see this happening, but I have two caution flags here. Charging and weight. So the first one, charging, could quite possibly be solved with battery swap stations built for semis and their trailers. There was the one station on I-5 for Model S's, which I'm not sure if it's still actually in use or not. I assume it's still there. It just may not be open. But as far as the weight issue goes, now I'm not an engineer, but at what point would the weight be too much? Because batteries are heavy. And remember, the Model S is significantly heavier than a comparable ICE large sedan. Significantly heavier. Now multiply that to account for a semi-truck and its payload with batteries underneath that payload. Could that kind of weight even possibly present a danger for crossing over bridges? Bridges have weight limits. Maybe I'm stretching here. I don't know. But then again, who's to say that a base for a trailer like you propose couldn't just have some batteries on it instead of being totally covered in them, which was sort of the first thought I had. That might be enough to give a noticeable range benefit without adding a totally undesirable amount of weight. But I like your line of thinking here, and I'm very curious to see how Tesla is going to handle this with the Semi. Let's see, 3 more calls to go. First up, Kyle from New Jersey, my state of origin. Love New Jersey. He's got himself a Model 3 reservation, and he has a particularly well, maybe not a unique, but he has a certain storage capacity concern. Let's hear what it is. Kyle.
Hey, Ryan, this is Kyle from New Jersey. I was just listening to the podcast in my car and heard a lot of people were calling in that had reservations on the Model 3. And I myself have one, and I have a particular situation that I am just waiting and dying to be able to see a Model 3 up close because I'm a drummer and a musician. And that means I need to pack my drums into my car all the time to go play gigs. And just today, I saw that the graphic had been leaked talking about, cubic storage space in the Model 3 and whatnot. Saw that it was about 14 cubic feet in the trunks. So at first I was a little bit worried, but then I realized that's only cargo space. So that's only the back trunk and the front trunk. So that doesn't include the entire passenger area. And I found a thread on Tumblr of a guy who actually packed a Toyota Corolla full of an entire drum set. So based on my other implications, I think for myself and maybe other musicians out there that packing your gear into your Model 3 won't be too much of a problem. So just thought I'd throw that topic out there. So thanks for the podcast. Listening every week. Keep it up, man. Thanks.
Well, Kyle, it's unfortunate for your particular case that the Model 3 has a trunk instead of a hatchback. But yeah, you should be able to break everything down and load it up easily enough. The Model S's cargo volume doubles when you fold the seats down, which I alluded to earlier in the show, from 31, well, more than doubles, 31 to 63 cubic feet. So since Elon has said that the cabin of the Model 3 is actually close, very, very close, to the S because of the way Tesla was able to move the dashboard further forward in the car to where the firewall would be in an ICE, I think it's reasonable to expect the Model 3's cargo volume to double as well, if not even a tad more than double. So as I mentioned earlier in the show, I think 30-ish cubic feet is pretty reasonable given the concrete number of 14 that we have for the trunk and frunk. Now, of course, the overwhelming majority of that's going to be in the rear area. That frunk is not going to account for much of that 30 cubic feet or even the 14. But because, of course, the 3's frunk is smaller than the S's, from what we can tell. And the other thing, the reason, too, is the Model 3 is a foot shorter than the Model S. According to the Motor Trend estimates, it's only a little bit narrower. It's not that much narrower of a car. I mean, the Model S is a wide car. The Model 3 is only, I believe, 3 inches narrower than than the S is. So not that much there, but most of the size difference in the S and the 3 comes out of the cargo areas in the front and rear of the car, rather than the cabin. So, which should make for more comfortable seating for front and rear passengers, but it just means we're not going to be able to stash as much stuff in the Model 3. Mike from LaGrange now calls in with an idea for how I might honor the fallen Maggie the Boxer, and he also has an insider tip, a possible scoop about Smart Air suspension, which has been on my mind lately with all these, this whole thing of there's going to be less than 100 possible option configurations. So, Mike, what have you got?
Hi, Ryan and fellow podcast listeners. Mike from LaGrange here. It's been a while since I called in, but I had a few things that I wanted to share with you. First and foremost, Ryan, my condolences on the passing of Maggie the Boxer. Our family lost Maggie the Corgi in a very similar manner, and it was a difficult decision for all of us, but I know that you made the right one. First thing is, I would like to say that I've thought of a perfect way, I think, that you can pay tribute to Maggie the Boxer, and a way that she can ride along with you in your Tesla in spirit, and that is by getting a personalized license plate that says RIP MTB. Rest in peace, Maggie the Boxer. I believe would be on your Tesla, would be an awesome tribute to the legendary four-legged co-host that we all know and love. Secondly, I would like to give a little bit of insider information I got from a friend of mine who works for the company that manufactures the air suspension for the Model S and Model X. My buddy was talking to some people on the team in that company that are in charge of the suspensions, and they are currently producing the Model 3 suspension and another unnamed Tesla suspension. So it looks like there is a sort of unofficial confirmation here that the Model 3 will have air suspension. I don't remember if Elon specifically stated whether it would or would not, but that sounds like a pretty good confirmation for me if they're already manufacturing it. And the unknown Tesla may be the semi-truck. That's just speculation. But this company also manufactures air suspensions for semi-trucks already, so it seems like it would be a perfect fit for what they do best. Anyways, once again, Ryan, hope you stay strong, and thank you for the wonderful podcast, and we'll talk to you soon.
Mike, I appreciate the kind words from Maggie. I will tell you, I do have a custom plate in mind. Actually, I have a list of custom plates that are all available in California, because it's tough here. There's a lot of people that live in California, and so the custom plate options are a bit limited. And I don't have one that I totally love. I will tell you, I have one that I am completely in love with for the Model X. I'm not going to tell you guys what it is, because in the freak off chance that I were to win a Model X or somehow acquire a Model X, I'd want to use it. But maybe I'll give away that plate idea after I get my Model 3. But yeah, I don't have a Model 3 plate that I'm totally over the moon about. For my DeLorean, in Arizona, I had stainless, STAINLS, in reference to the stainless steel exterior of the car, which I loved because I think the word stainless kind of conveys a timelessness, which you know what, I don't want to get into it. I don't want to bore you guys. But and then in California, well, I don't know, maybe I'm not supposed to say what I had in California, because none of you guys would try to stalk me, but I know they say, like, don't post pictures of your license plate on the internet. I don't know. Anyway, yeah, I'm going to do something on the 3. It's probably not going to be a Maggie thing, because that's just not quite how I want to remember her. And more power to you if you want to remember your pet and license plate form. But I want to make my custom plate on my Tesla a bit more sort of fun and upbeat and smile-inducing, rather than sort of a solemn, honoring thing. Which, hey, again, there's plenty of value in that too. But anyway, I'm babbling too long about this. I was wondering if Smart Air suspension might have been cut. Now, I'm very glad you called in, because now your insider tip suggests that it's not. Though I definitely believe it's not going to be available right at launch for the reasons I talked about earlier. I want it. I know a lot of people say it's, it's going to break or this or that. There was a thread on this on Tesla Motors Club forums, and it seems like Tesla owners that have gotten it have largely been happy with it so far. For me, I don't really care about the lowering its speed for an extra 1% aerodynamic efficiency. I want it for the GPS-aware raising of the suspension to clear crappy driveways and curbs and stuff. So that's what I want, because I just do not want to scrape the front fascia or any part of that car ever. And the Smart Air suspension is worth the price of admission for me, living and working here in San Francisco, which is a city full of hills and weird curbs and old crappy curbs and driveways, etc. So worth it for me, might not be worth it for you, but It's good to hear some reassurance via your insider tip that it should hopefully still be coming. Finally this week, Michael from Millbrae, my friend, calls in response to the Easter basket, the Easter egg screen that's just been added. So he has a clarification on that. Michael, take it away.
Hey Ryan, I wanted to respond to the call about the Easter basket feature. My understanding, and I could be wrong, I haven't gotten the update yet myself to check this, but my understanding was that if you find an Easter egg, then it goes into that Easter basket, but it doesn't put everything there until you've discovered it. I think Elon's original wording in his tweet said that it would be an Easter basket for all discovered Easter eggs, so I assume that's what it means. Hopefully that's a good compromise where you still have to go through the effort to find it, but once you've found it, you don't have to do it again. Anyway, let me know what you think. Thanks, bye.
You are 100% right, Michael, and yes, that totally addresses the dumb, pointless concern I had about having Easter eggs be Easter eggs. So disregard what I said last week, and thank you for calling in with this extra bit of important info, and I am psyched for you and I to make our way to the Tesla factory next weekend and get the tour and see the Model 3. All right, that wraps it up for the Ride the Lightning hotline this week. I encourage you, I welcome you, I invite you to call in and participate. Questions, comments, discussion topics. It is very easy to do so. Again, you can just record something right on your phone and then email me the file at the email address teslapodcast@gmail.com, or use the Ride the Lightning hotline. It's a toll-free number. You just call in, leave your message. That number is 1-888-989-8752. Be right back with some parting thoughts, and we'll wrap this up right after this. I want to start by reminding you that Abstract Ocean, which is a Tesla accessories site, they have stuff like lanyards, silicone key fobs, slip covers rather, for your Model S or Model X keychain, interior lighting stuff, various Tesla accessories for you and for your car. They've kindly offered a 20% off code for listeners to this podcast. So do your shopping and then enter the coupon code RTLPodcast at checkout to get 20% off of your order. If you're buying a Tesla, please get yourself $1,000 off of that vehicle using the referral code Jeff2311. So you can just open up a web browser and type in this short link, ts.la/Jeff2311, Jeff spelled Jeff, and that will take you to the design studio, configure your car, and it'll have the $1,000 taken off in there. And then that will get me and Jeff some prizes and get me a chance to win a Tesla and get you $1,000 off your car. Follow me on Twitter at DMC_Ryan. You can always email me, teslapodcast@gmail.com. Dave T runs a fantastic weekly Tesla newsletter every Friday. He sends you an email summary of the week's Tesla news. You can sign up for that for free at teslaweekly.com. I would be very grateful if you'd take a look at the Patreon page that I launched about a year ago, almost exactly a year ago now, for the podcast. This, as I've noted here and there, this show does require a lot of time, a lot of energy. I love doing it, but it is kind of like a second job. So if you see fit to maybe throw a little support my way, I would be extremely grateful. Take a look at the page, patreon.com, Patreon, patreon.com/Tesla Podcast. And I want to thank the group of Patreon producers, these kind folks that support me at the $20 or higher level each month. And that ever-growing list of kind folks is Jeff Bartram, Paul Hussey, DJ Harbaugh, Pete White, Wolfgang Obergen, George Cassiopo, ZL Klein, David Brander, Jonathan Wales, John Waltauer, Scott Gillis, Michael Lucas, Alexi Heft, David Kittle, Lisa Kaz, Michael O'Prey, Logan Willis, Matthew Parra, Michael Lester, John E. Ford, Robert Miracle, Kyle Stover, Vince Vaughn, John Lasher, David Vakil, and hold on, there was just a new Harold. Oh no, I don't want to get Harold's name wrong. I think I'm going to go with Plague on this one because it's OE, which is usually, I know that's a lot of German names that were O with an umlaut sort of eventually morph into OE in when they become English. So Harold Plague, P-L-O-E-G. Harold, please correct me if I slaughtered that so that I can get it right in the future. But thank you so much, Harold, for your contribution, for your support. And most of you probably subscribe to the podcast. That way it's automatically downloaded to you each week. If you don't, I would encourage you to do so that you do not have to manually seek it out. You can subscribe on most of the major podcast services, iTunes, Google Play Music, Stitcher, TuneIn, or you can grab the RSS feed or manual downloads at the podcast hosting site, which is found at teslapodcast.libsyn.com. So thanks, everybody. Again, really looking forward to the factory tour and Franz Q&A next week with the Model 3 viewing. I look forward to hopefully getting to share a lot with you, NDAs permitting. So look forward to that episode next Sunday at 9 a.m. Eastern, the usual time, and I will see you all next week. Happy electric motoring!